The capacity of these African tribes to adapt to such an extreme environment is surprising. They have forged their own culture from this ability to survive, a far cry from the voracious predatory consumerism that ails the developed world. The Tuareg are another example of adaptation to a rough and difficult environment. They are the blue men of the desert, constantly present in the collective imagination of Mediterranean peoples. These primitive inhabitants of the northern Sahara, who were there well before the Arab colonization of northern Africa, have developed a nomadic way of life based on transhuman cattle raising that follows much older and more deep-rooted rules than Islam, the religion they practiced. Their use of indigo has not only given them their name, but protects their skin from the intense ultraviolet rays and helps them to not sweat profusely, since such liquid loss would prove fatal in the desert. The inevitable question is there life in the desert? Undoubtedly so, much more than that apparent great void suggests. It is true that biomass is scarce and that its biodiversity is relative, as is the case in Antarctica. But deserts and polar masses teach us about the value of species during their adaptive processes, as they constitute the last biomes to be colonized by living beings, even in the abysses of the oceans. As in the bottom of the oceans, the fauna of the desert has also become proverbially used to the conditions of this extreme ecosystem, adapting their bodies to the rigors of permanent sunstroke and total aridity. Animals that live in this arid universe have developed ingenious mechanisms that take maximum advantage of the scarcity of water and the difficulty of finding food. The great mammals and herbivores that populate the arid savannas that border deserts defend themselves from sunstroke by resting in the middle hours of the days and actively seeking food at sunrise or sundown. Birds, and especially reptiles and rodents, have developed adaptation mechanisms that allow them to survive in the most adverse conditions. The plant life of desert areas is always on the fringes of survival. It is usually found in the form of shrubs and wisely manages scarce precipitation levels in an effort to survive. Xerophile plants, so characteristic of deserts, have developed two strategies for survival. The first is to avoid the loss of water through perspiration, which they are able to do by reducing the area of their leaves to a thin sheath or a simple thorn. The second strategy is their capacity to quickly store water during scarce rain seasons. Other xerophiles, such as those in the Atacama Desert, the most arid on the planet, actually rotate in search of those small drops of morning dew that can alleviate their hydric stress. Any gain, no matter how small, can mean the difference between life and death in these ecosystems, which are so adverse to the existence of life. And lastly, we cannot forget about the peculiar characteristics of desert grounds, which are often rich in minerals that allow for the existence of vegetation. The chemical composition of the substrate, combined with the harshness of climate conditions, force plants to develop varied and surprising morphologies. Perhaps the ultimate example of fauna that has adapted to the harsh conditions of the desert are camels and dromedaries. Their anatomy manifests their capacity to accommodate to both hot, sandy deserts as well as to cold and rocky ones. They are ensconced in a thick wool cover that serves as an air chamber, protecting them against both the cold at night and the heat during the day. Their knees and ankles are highly calloused, which makes them resistant to the heat of the sand when they sit and rest. Their capacity to resist dehydration has made them extremely valuable animals for life in the desert. Man takes advantage of pretty much every aspect of camels and dromedaries. Their meat is eaten, their skin is made into coats, and their excrement is used to light fires. But their endless carrying capacity, and especially their milk, is what is most valuable to the inhabitants of the desert. Almost all of the protein consumed by these people comes from milk and cheese. Thanks to their humps, camelids can store enough water and fat to survive in the desert for long periods of time. In the eyes of those who are unused to observing nature, deserts lack life. But this assertion is quite false. A universe of reptiles, insects, and arthropods populate these apparently sterile sands. Life in this non-place, which is so hostile to human life, is in fact the highest expression of physiological and ecological efficiency on our blue planet. Are deserts useful? In nature, everything makes sense, even if it's apparently useless. And deserts perform a very important function in the equilibrium of the planet. They efficiently reflect light, protecting the Earth from an excess of solar radiation. Without deserts, the climate change that threatens the planet's equilibrium would undoubtedly be more acute. One of the most pernicious results of the greenhouse effect, which is a consequence of the emissions of toxic gases, is precisely the decrease of the planetary albedo and the resulting increase in temperatures that not only increase the desertification process, but also alter climate equilibrium with nefarious consequences to life in many areas of our planet. The natural logic of our planet is being altered by the predatory instinct of one of its species, mankind, who converts ecosystems that are not potentially deserts into areas of degradation. Another consequence of desertification is the alteration of the terrestrial climate and the increase in frequency of its most extreme phenomena. Prolonged droughts, soaring numbers of typhoons and hurricanes, violent storms and devastating floods not only destroy valuable ecosystems, but further impoverish the lives of underprivileged human populations. We're probably not aware that if we continue to destroy the planet at the current pace, we'll have to look to life's capacity for survival in deserts for answers. Mankind's deeds cannot entirely do away with life on the planet, but they can force most mammals, including mankind itself, to subsist in highly unfavorable conditions, and even place us all on the brink of extinction.